All right, it looks like we are live. I'm going to do the standard of going to our other pages and making sure that we are, in fact, live. So let me check on this for a second. Here we go. Looks like we're live on Facebook. Let's check Instagram and see if this has worked there. Sometimes it doesn't. Awesome. Looks like it is working. Perfect. All right, so we are live on Instagram. We are live with Facebook and I think on YouTube. So we should all be here. Ventura County Restoration. I think that's you, George. If you're here, thanks for joining us. We got to hop on a call and catch up. It has been more than a minute, that's for sure. And I'm going to give a little bit of time here, let people hop on. I'm going to post on Instagram here in a second and just make sure people see that we're live. Make sure this works here. See if it's showing us that we're live here. And today, like always, there we go. Wonderful. We're going to be talking through wildfire claims. We're going to be talking through total loss, smoke damage. We had some good meetings this week with hygienists and testing experts, fire damage experts. Going to share some of those insights as well. And make sure that I get the chat open here so that wherever comments are coming in, that I will be seeing them. Where is this at? Chat. There we go. Oh, awesome. We already have one message from Catherine. You say you send this as a Facebook message. Sorry if we haven't responded to you there yet. But we'll be able to get to it right now. So I'll read this off here in just a second as I finish pulling up my notes and getting everything going here. We are still improving in our live stream capabilities here at tugboat.claims, but we're getting the hang of it a little bit more each week. All right, Catherine, let me read your question. You say, how long do we have to get insurance a scope of loss? They paid our max dwelling, but we have 25% more extended coverage and would need it to rebuild. But from what I've heard, the building costs will rise, so it would be better to do scope of loss when closer to the, would it be better to do a scope of loss when it's closer to the rebuild date, or is there a time limit to debate what the claim would cost? Okay, I'm going to start with that. I see you have another question as well. I'm not going to read it yet because I don't want to get lost in the details between these questions. And that's a great question. I was actually just talking to one of our claim support staff, Danielle. She's also a public adjuster, works with our premium service tugboat, or our premium service Waypoint. And we were talking about this extended limit for one of the people that we're supporting. So typically, I'm just going to explain what that is real fast, Catherine, in case someone else that watches this or is watching this doesn't quite understand. So the extended limit, so say you have $500,000 in coverage on your dwelling. That's your home. That's coverage A, and it's $500,000. And so your stated limit there is that $500,000, but you might have an endorsement that says extended replacement cost of 25%. And what that does is it takes that $500,000 and adds 25% to that. In this case, that'd be $125,000. I think I did my math right there. But that typically is only included as what's called an incurred cost. So not once you have spent that money necessarily, there's a misunderstanding of what incurred means. Oftentimes in insurance claims, incurred doesn't necessarily mean that you've spent the money, but it means that you have incurred a debt to it, which could mean that you got an estimate from a contractor that says you're going to owe this much money. And so the point is, the adjuster typically won't just pay you that additional 25% on top of your $500,000 in this instance that I'm talking about. You have to show them that you have incurred this to get that towards a rebuild on your house. And there's different ways. And sometimes, and the bar for showing them that is different in different instances. And so let me pull up a couple more of my notes here just a second. So sorry, I had people coming in to the door of my office there. So the bar for showing that you've incurred that is different for different adjusters and different insurance companies. And I'm sorry to get so technical about this, but it's important because I want everyone that has those extended limits to have the opportunity to get that money as soon as possible. And this gets into the second half of your question. So there are different ways to get it. You can have a contractor start rebuilding your house and say, hey, once you hit $500,000 in the rebuild, let's go back to the insurance company. I have another $125,000 available. We just have to show them that I'm going to need it. That's like the simplest way to get it as you're doing the rebuild, but it's not always the most beneficial way for you to get it. If you can get that full rebuild allotment earlier in the process, then you know that you have that available, because it's not like you get to the end or you get to the $500,000 benchmark and suddenly your adjuster's like, yeah, this is fine. Here, have some extra money. You have the available in your policy. It's still a negotiation at that point. They're going to want to see like, is your house the same exact as it was before the fire? Did you add any square footage? Did you change the quality of the cabinets or the roof? And they may argue with you and negotiate as to whether or not you are actually owed that money, even at that point after you're already in the rebuild process. So it's not a home run. And it's not a home run to simply do that. And so you asked, how long do you have to give them a scope of loss? You can give them, like, your adjuster's already written one. So a scope of loss, I think what you're referring to is an estimate for the repairs. How long do you have to give them that? That's accurate. And you're asking, your adjuster is going to give you one on their own right away, or as soon as they can, that they're going to tie their estimate to. You are not obligated to give them one back necessarily at any point. At least in California, there's no proof of loss requirements. They may ask you for a contractor's estimate. It's almost always going to be beneficial for you to do so, but there's not this time limit that you have to respond to them with that unless you are specifically asking for something, which in your scenario you are. And it's going to be beneficial for you to try to get those funds on the front end. So that's a long way of saying I would actually have your contractor do it sooner rather than later, because you're saying, well, later the costs are going to go up. Maybe it's going to be easier to justify that whole extra 25%. Maybe that's the case. But if your contractor can justify it now, if he can write an estimate that includes that 25% extended replacement cost, and you give that to your adjuster and you say, hey, this is the estimate for my rebuild. It is 25% or more above my limit. Can I please have not 500,000, but 625,000 in this instance? And they may give it to you. The bar, like I said, may be higher for some adjusters to get it, but you may get it based on that. And my argument would be, or my position would be, that you want that as soon as possible, because now you can go to contractors and say, this is all the money I know I have available. I have $625,000 available to rebuild my house. What can we do with this? Rather than saying, I have $500,000 available and I might have another $125,000 down the road if my adjuster agrees to it. You want to find out if your adjuster has agreed to it as soon as possible, typically. That would be my position there. So I would submit that to them as soon as possible from a contractor, an estimate that's thorough. If it exceeds that policy limit, that dwelling limit, and goes into that extended replacement cost, then you can start negotiating for it now. And if your adjuster says, well, you haven't incurred it yet, then talk to us at Tugboat. This is the exact type of thing that we would want to help you communicate with your adjuster through to help you advocate for yourself to get those funds as soon as possible. So it's certainly the type of thing we can help you navigate to try and make sure you get access to all the funds as quickly as you can. So I hope that answered the first question. That was a super long answer. I tend to ramble on, so I'm sorry about that. And Aaron, who is our director of operations, or chief of operations and claims support, is actually saying he can hop on and answer your second question. So I'm going to pull him in here because he's in the waiting room area and let him answer question number 2. Aaron, let me read off this question so people can hear it, and then you get the answer, okay? So Catherine says, my other question, if we opt out to buy instead of rebuild, I know in California we can buy and we don't have to deduct the land value from the new place. But then how do I convince the insurance to give us the extra 25% on the new place? i.e., can I convince them with the scope of loss alone? For example, in total they gave us 800,000. Can I just buy a place for 800,000 since there's no land valuation deduction, even though the dwelling on that new place wouldn't be worth 800,000? Thanks.
So for that part, you're still gonna have to establish that you lost like the $800,000 on the original dwelling. So just because like they're not gonna deduct the land value, but what they will do from the new property, but you still have to establish that loss. So you're still in the same boat as far as like how you're justifying that 25% with scope is still the correct avenue. You can't just buy a property that costs the 25% more and then they're beholden to extend that. And you still have to establish the loss on that. So that's just a brief tie into everything that Cameron already mentioned with kind of the best way to go about doing that.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron. I'll throw you back into the waiting room. I could hear someone knocking on your office door as well. All right, Catherine, thanks for that question. Let us know if that didn't answer what you're asking. Then just drop another question there. Ask for some more clarification. We're happy to jump into a little bit more. And let me pull up some of our notes for additional topics to go over. If you're watching this on any of our platforms, then drop a question if you're curious about your own claim, your neighbor's claim, your family's claim. This is what we're here to talk about, and just share some of our insights as well. You're very welcome, Catherine. Appreciate you jumping on and dropping that question. It's a super useful one. And this is why we like doing these office hours. Is your situation that you're asking about is incredibly relevant to thousands of other people right now. There are thousands of people wondering, what happens if I rebuild? How do I get access to this extra 25%? What happens if I don't rebuild and I buy property elsewhere? So many people are asking these, and it is difficult to find accurate information about what the implications of each of those choices might be. And your adjuster may have good answers for you and they may not. And so this is exactly what we're here for at Tugboat with our free claim support, and especially during these office hours, to give you guys some perspective from what we've seen, what we've experienced, what we've learned as professionals in the industry, supporting people through these losses for a long time. So let me pull up some other notes. I definitely want to talk about some testing and insights that we have about that as well. And then I'll share something and I'll put it in the comments as well. This week we had a consulting call with a fire damage expert. His name was Sean Scott, and I'm going to share in the chat here, actually in the comments here, some of his articles. Let me see. Just a link to his page in Restoration and Remediation magazine. He's written a lot in here. These are super useful to read through. We utilize these internally. And let me make sure that comment is popping up for people here as well. And then in the Facebook so that you guys can access those if you want to be looking at that. Let me see this. Okay, perfect. Yeah, the link did work there. Just making sure that popped up. Anyway, Sean Scott is a fire damage expert. He has been heavily involved as a former contractor, an expert witness, an appraiser, an umpire. He's someone that I've consulted with in the past on public adjusting claims. He is used by insurance carriers. He's used by public adjusters. He's very well respected as a even, fair, and unbiased, as it were, approach to how he talks about insurance claims. So anyways, we wanted to talk with him because his specialty is fire damage. And it's where he has some really specific insights. One of the things that we talked about this week was, what are the implications that people should be thinking about with their smoke affected contents, right? So this is different than if your house was a total loss and essentially everything's burned and you're just having to determine the valuation of those contents, confirm that you owned them in some way oftentimes, and negotiate with your adjuster on the value of that settlement. Instead, when your property is smoke affected, we've talked about this in various ways, but smoke claims, especially right now with new insights coming out with new rulings in California, I think it's the Second District Court and things like that, smoke claims are some of the most complex ones that you can be caught in and having to negotiate. Caught in is the wrong word, but yeah, certainly some of the most complex claims to be thinking through. And so one of the things that's complex about them, and we've talked about this in previous office hours, is your smoke affected contents. But some of the new insights that Sean shared when we were speaking with him was how long-term the effects on smoke affected contents can be after they've been inundated with smoke, whether it's from a wildfire or from a structure fire, but especially when it is from a structure fire. It doesn't mean that your house burned, but it could be the house next door that burned and the smoke from that affected into your house. So in that smoke, when a structure burns, it isn't just the byproduct of trees burning or like you having a campfire outside. This is drywall and concrete even burning and steel melting and lead in paint and asbestos in joint compound and roofing mastic. All these harmful materials become airborne with the smoke from these fires. And that is oftentimes what is affecting some of these houses. And I'm not talking about, when I'm talking about smoke claims that we're supporting through Tugboat, far and away, these are all claims that are in houses that are last one standing in neighborhoods or one of just a few left standing in neighborhoods that almost completely burned. So not talking about houses miles away that had some ash fall on them, but talking about very severely affected houses. And so with fires like this, those heavy metals, those harmful substances are in the smoke. They might be affecting your clothes and other soft goods in the house. And the important point that we learned from Sean was that those heavy metals, those harmful compounds that are in that smoke, if that gets into the fabrics of clothing, it does not come out. Doesn't matter how well the clothing is cleaned. Doesn't matter if the vendor that you're working with says, you know what, no, anything can be cleaned. He has done the research and testing himself to prove that that's not true. I have personally been told by vendors that they can clean pretty much anything. Doesn't matter if it's fabric or not. They're going to get the smell to go away and they're going to get the stains to go away. But the things that are harmful, toxic, are things that you often can't smell or see. Or maybe you could smell, but they covered up with detergent that they used while they were cleaning things. And they'll use the word deodorizing. And Sean used the phrase, he's like, they're not deodorizing, they're reodorizing it. reodorizing it with something else that's just covering up this odor that's on that clothing. And he has tested, and I think some of this is talked about in the articles that are in that link that I just shared. He has tested some of these clothing materials after they have been cleaned and deemed clean by these professionals to see, are these heavy metals still there that were tested prior to the cleaning? And every single time they were still there. So the point is, it doesn't mean that if you are near a fire that automatically all your clothing and soft goods have to be replaced, but it does mean that if your house is tested and it's found that those harmful compounds, heavy metals, are in the fabrics and materials, that they are not coming out. And so it's a really important point. It's one that I think most adjusters, even myself, didn't fully understand. Most do not fully understand the implications of how harmful some of these smoke claims can be. I'm going to change my microphone. I just realized I'm not on my nicer one that I have over here. And since we record this and use this elsewhere, it's always nice to have the better audio if we can manage it. So I'm going to update. I'm going to switch it to this microphone here so that works. Just a second. Input. And Aaron or Naomi, if you're in the chat, just make sure that you can still hear me now. It should be coming through this microphone at this point. Aaron said, sounds great. Audio, input, perfect. Okay. So let me pull up some of our notes. That's one of the main points that I wanted to bring up after talking with Sean Scott. And again, I'm going to, I'll just share my screen right here real fast and show you some of these articles, and we'll scroll through some of them together. I think it's worth it. Okay, Sean Scott, restoration. Magazine, let's see. Window. Okay. So this is Sean. These are some of the articles that he's written: deodorizing fire or smoke damaged lumber. That will be important for some of the houses. 5 ways restorers can help disaster survivors. Even if there isn't a job in it for them, probably really helpful and useful for some of the contractors out there to take a look at that. Restoring smoke damaged textiles. What does clean mean? So this is going to be one of the important ones here. Now, right here, he's looking at a house. This obviously had a fire inside the house, and this smoke inundated this area. And again, your house may not have experienced this much smoke or this bad of inundation of combustion byproduct, but that doesn't mean that your clothing wasn't still affected. So this is worth taking a read through this. Obviously, look, these look clean. This is what they look like after cleaning and deodorization. This is what they look like beforehand. Right? They have soot and ash on them. So what they look like afterwards, they look totally clean. Experiment results, a major cause for concern. So what he's going to show here is that the fire-related VOCs and other chemicals found in the fabric remained there. Test results for heavy metals found in the fabrics. So, and these are things that it is totally okay for you to go over with your own adjuster. It doesn't require a public adjuster or an attorney to talk about these things with your insurance company. You can say, hey, I have this article here that shows that there is concern when there's heavy metals in fabrics that it actually doesn't get cleaned. And they may say, oh yeah, well, in that article, this clothing is clearly more affected than it was at your house. And you're like, yeah, it's probably true, but my house was still affected. So can we at least approve the testing to make sure that this isn't the case for me? Because this testing isn't cheap. Even with some of the more affordable vendors, if you want the full scope of testing to be done, it's going to be upwards of $5,000 to get everything that you would want done. On average, probably somewhere between $7,000 and $10,000. And for the best testing companies, our best might be the wrong word, but the some of the most renowned ones, upwards of something like $20,000 for some of them. So not something you want to have to come out of pocket for. And so using an article like this, using information like this can be a way to get approval for that expense on your claim. A lot of insurance companies just don't want to be paying for that. And you don't want to be paying for it out of pocket. So that's a really important article that he has in this link. There are other ones if you're just interested in diving into some of the minutia of insurance claims. These are all super interesting topics. And if you're a contractor and you're watching this, especially if you're newer in the industry and you want to learn some of like the most experienced, from someone that's one of the most experienced people in it, and that has definitely done a lot more than most, then anyways, I would dive into the information that Sean Scott has here. So great resource. Go ahead and stop sharing there and double check and see if we have any other questions coming in. I'll also go ahead and check our Facebook messages to see if we have gotten any questions there, and double check here. Every once in a while, the Instagram comments do not make it into the chat here. So let me check and see if any have come in there before we dive into talking a little bit about debris removal. It's going to be another important topic. Again, another common one that we've gone through quite a bit as of late, but remains important. Okay. Doesn't look like we have any extra questions there. So gives me the opportunity to talk through debris removal with you all. This past weekend, Chris, who's our general manager of our premium service, our public adjusting service that's separate from Tugboat, he went to an, what's the word I'm looking for? It's because it's not a webinar, because it wasn't on the web. What's an in-person webinar called? Not a conference either. Anyways, someone's going to put it in my private chat. Aaron's going to know the word that I'm thinking of. A seminar. Thank you, Aaron. Anyways, Chris from our team went to a seminar with a contractor, a really well-respected one, really, really good one. His name is Luke Melcher. I can put a link to their company here in the chat. He has some really, I'm actually just going to put his Instagram link in here because I think that's where people might get some of the most benefit from looking up his stuff. So this is Luke Melcher's Instagram. He puts out some really good content talking about, especially right now, debris removal. And essentially what he's showing is that there are no simple answers right now. At least that's my take from it. There is a lot of information coming from the city, from the local government, that is most of it trying to encourage people to accept the FEMA option with the Army Corps of Engineers coming in and doing the debris removal, it getting billed to your insurance company. And the problem with that is how it's being presented. So much of what we like to do at Tugboat is to empower people with good information to help them make more informed decisions. And the information that is being presented by local authorities on this, I do not think is educating people well on the decisions that they're making. Essentially, it's being presented as though it's free. It's not free. And then they'll say, well, we're just going to bill your insurance company for it. And people have a misunderstanding of what that means. Is it going to come out of my dwelling limit? Then they'll say, oh, it's going to come out of your debris removal limit. Okay. What if I don't have additional debris removal? What happens then? Are you going to bill it against the rest of my policy? And I think they would say the answer is no to that. But we have heard from survivors of the Palisades fire, the Paradise fires, that they did receive bills for this later, that it wasn't in fact free, that it wasn't just all billed to their insurance company when they accepted the FEMA option. And this is not me saying that you should never take the FEMA option. Again, I'm here to help you make some more informed decisions, hopefully. And the information that I have right now is to say that it is really difficult to know for sure what's going to happen if you accept the FEMA option. If you go private, I can give you some more insights into that because that road is more known. It's not hidden behind the curtain of what's going on with local and federal government and how is this going to get paid and who's keeping track of this and how is the communication of my insurance company going to go and where are the bills going to go. All those seem very up in the air. Still, even a month after the fires, if you go the private option, if you hire a contractor like Melcher Construction, I talked to a ServPro contractor that is great, and they have a reconstruction branch, and they do debris removal. There are plenty of good options for going private and getting the debris removal done and getting your property cleared. A few things I can say about that. One, it almost certainly will be faster. That doesn't mean that's not always the primary consideration for why you should do something when it comes to your insurance claim. The faster option is not always the better one, but I can say that most likely if you decided to go the private route, it will likely go more quickly for you. And two, what is known with that is how it's going to be billed. Do you have debris removal coverage? Okay. Your insurance company will likely allow you, even before the reconstruction, to bill this against that debris removal additional limit. Sometimes maybe they'll wait to categorize it as that until the end of your claim. But that nuance isn't important here. And if you have $100,000 in debris removal in that extra additional limit, and you get a quote from a private contractor who says, I can do this for $80,000. I can clear the dirt away and the soil that needs to get cleared away. I can remove the slab and the driveway and all the debris and all the burnt contents, everything that's there. And I can do it for $80,000. Now, you have a quote for someone that's going to charge you 80. You have 100,000 in additional debris removal coverage. And so there's an extra $20,000 there. And if you're wondering, can I utilize that later? The answer is yes. There is debris removal that continues to happen throughout the rebuild of your home. Just because your property gets cleared doesn't mean there's no more debris removal that happens. Every day that construction is done on your house, there is debris removal. There is a waste bin there that has to get taken to the dump, and there's dump fees. All of those things can be categorized. All those things can be categorized as debris removal in your adjuster's estimate or your contractor's estimate later. And therefore, that additional $20,000 can be utilized to restoring your home in this instance where you have a private contractor that's going to be doing the debris removal for less than your debris removal limit, which I think is going to happen quite often. And probably not the majority of the time, but for a lot of people, that is an available option. It'll get done more quickly. It'll get done under their debris removal limit, and they can have some of those funds available for actually rebuilding their home. Now, if you go the FEMA route, this is my guess. I do not know this for sure, but my guess is in that same scenario where you have $100,000 in debris removal in that policy. Well, when FEMA, the Army Corps of Engineers, whoever it is, bills your insurance company, they ask for your insurance policy. They find out how much you have in your debris removal limit, and they are likely going to bill that entire limit. This is from our experience in talking to past claims and seeing how that's gone with other wildfires in California. And I believe the same thing happened in Maui. I'm trying to get some Maui wildfire survivors to talk through this as well. But they're likely going to bill every little bit of that $100,000 towards debris removal, and maybe even more than that. And it sounds like some people have been stuck with the bill years down the road. So anyways, again, this is not to say the FEMA option isn't the right one for you. If you have no debris removal coverage and you can be assured that they're not going to bill the rest of your coverage, that could be a great option for you. You're not going to have to spend a bunch of money that needs to get spent on the rebuild towards that debris removal work. So just some really important points to consider if you are going to be rebuilding and thinking about doing that. And it's only a month since the fires, but these are already things that people are having to think about, that adjusters are going to be wanting to see progress on. And yeah, just some important considerations. All right, let's talk about, Aaron, if you have any other points around that you think we should be diving into, certainly feel free to share. And let me see. I want to talk a little bit about the experience of some of our tugboat users so far. So these are people that don't have a public adjuster, that are coming in and just asking for some help and support throughout the tugboat does. Actually, I think maybe it'll be useful. Let's go through the process of if you were going to utilize Tugboat's free claim support, what you might do. This is a good opportunity to do this. Did not plan for this, so let's see how it goes. Hopefully everything works right now. No, it should all be fine. So I'm going to put in right now page where you can get claim support if you have a wildfire claim for free. It's a free 1-year membership for anyone affected by the wildfires. And so I'm going to go ahead and show that in, oh, wrong one there. Don't hide that one. Show this one. tugboat.claims/wildfire. So click on that, and then I'm going to share my screen and show you the process of someone getting started with Tugboat's claim support. And then I want to talk for a moment, unless we get some other questions in here that are more pressing, but the types of things that we're having to support people with so soon after these fires have occurred. What are they looking for? What are we able to help them with in the first weeks after a wildfire? All right, so let's take a look here. Share my screen. And here we are. So this is the tugboat.claims/wildfire page. All right. If you want to read a little bit more about what we do at Tugboat, you can look on this page. It'll show you little instances of what claim support is, some coverage assessment. This is really just taking a look at your policy and giving you some insights specific to this wildfire event, talking about debris removal coverage, talking about extended replacement costs. Those are the topics that we've talked about in this webinar already, but lots of other things as well. Considerations that you should probably have as you're looking at a claim. Everything that Tugboat does is claim emphasized. Anyways, I'm going to scroll down here. If you look here, or if you click on the button up at the top, it brings you down here. It says become a member. So this is the free link to become a member, and it's going to take you into our web app. So thankfully it's having me sign up for a new account, and let's say test. I'm going to put the date in here because we do a lot of these test accounts. Let's say the 12th. 2/12/25, and Cameron plus 2/12/25, tugboat.claims, and then we're just going to do test 1, 2, 3. So I'll change that there. All right. And sign up. Oh, has to have special characters. It's because we want you to be safe. All right. There we go. I've done it now. All right. So someone gets sent the link, goes to tugboat.claims/wildfire. This is where they will be sent first. Right. And so they're going to be asked to, let me refresh this. New version of our app. This is where they're going to be sent right away at a loss. A loss is your claim. And so they would go here and they might name the loss. And so they might say wildfire claim. And let's see where the loss occurred. They're going to put the address there. I'm not going to go through everything here. Put the date, put a little description of it. Is this a total loss? And you can check there, put a description of it. What's the status of the claim filed, damage type. These are all important. And claim number, also important as well. 1, 2, 3. So, and this we ask for because you can have multiple losses. And this is how we're going to link that information. So if you have multiple claims right now or in the future, that's why we include the claim number here, just so you know. Anyways, so some details about the loss get added there. You'll be directed to to add a policy. You're going to add an address for this policy. Let's see. Test home. Let's just pick a random address. 1, 2, 3. Erringer Road. And so now we're there. You might say this is a State Farm policy. And this is going to be important. You're going to add a policy doc there. Let me get the right ones set up here. I'm not going to add an actual policy doc. I'll just add a little image here. So you can upload a policy document there. You can, and this is important information. Tell us about who lives there, what's going on, answer these questions, give us this information. This allows you to then get the insights that are going to be specific to your situation. So anyways, save those things there. They have created a loss. You have added a policy, and then loss event documents. So similar to before, you're going to add some stuff here. And what you would add here would be things like a letter from your adjuster, an email from your adjuster, photos of the damage if you have questions about that, things that our claims support can review and provide you some insights on. So there we've added some loss event documents and we're off to the races. So let me go here, wildfire claim. So I'm going to go home. Now I can go home and I have this message support window here. So it says, hello, Cameron. This is the automated message that pops up here. Most of what Tugboat does. So now let me talk a little bit about what we've been doing in supporting people that have had damage from the wildfires. So just like I am talking with you now and answering questions about your wildfire claims and about situations that are coming up, those are the exact type of questions that someone might send us within Tugboat as well. You can say, my adjuster is coming for an inspection this Friday. What should I have prepared? And that's a really simple, you probably want to be a little more thorough with that, but I'm just going to keep it simple right there and send that. All right, so now that's been sent. And what you'll receive is a thorough answer specific to the policy that you've uploaded, to the claim documents that you've uploaded, to the property that you're in, because how you should be prepared for an inspection is going to be specific to you. You can look up a blog right now online and probably find a general answer to this. But what about your policy? What does it say about abatement or hygienist testing or testing of any substances on there? What does it say about debris removal? What questions should you have prepared for that adjuster? That is exactly what you would be receiving from this, is notes on how you specifically should be prepared for this inspection coming up, right? And how you might send them an email with questions beforehand, how you might follow up with them afterwards, so that you are being as thorough as possible and as empowered as you can be to get the best results that you can out of that inspection. And so that's just one way that we might support you in this claim. After that inspection, you might say, I received this letter from my adjuster saying that they don't want to pay for the replacement of my roof, like we talked about while he was there for the inspection. And once that happens, oh, I just got a comment from one of our claims support staff. I know this is a test, but this is where the response will appear. Aaron just sent that to us there. So yeah, there you'll get a notification, even if you're in the app, that someone has responded to you. And that's how it'll appear there. And sometimes it's just a response here, but sometimes it's a report that they'll send back to you. And it could be a policy report, could be a loss report, which might be a template with some questions that you can send to your adjuster, might be guidance for an inspection, all kinds of things like that. And so after that, say you get that letter from your adjuster and it says, he says that he's not going to pay for the roof that we talked about while we were on site. And I don't know what to do about that. Well, we would give you some questions you could follow up with that adjuster that help you to hopefully open up coverage if it's relevant for your claim, right? Can you tell me what changed between our conversation that we had on site at my house and you sending me this letter? What is it based on any expert reports? We can tell you, hey, maybe it might be smart to have a roofing contractor come out there and take a look at these things and give a professional opinion. And here's some questions to ask that roofing contractor. Again, we'll be as thorough as possible to help you be prepared for whatever is coming next and respond to whatever has happened so far with your claim. That's what claim support through Tugboat is. It's absolutely free if you've been affected by the wildfires. So let me chat for just a moment about what that has looked like specifically for people with these wildfire claims. We have had hundreds of people sign up for Tugboat getting this exact type of support. What are the common things that we're seeing when it comes to their claims? So big questions, really consistent questions around hygienist testing. Should they be doing it? What should they be asking the hygienist? What should they be looking for in a report? Is their insurance company going to pay for it? I can't answer all those right now, but all of those are the types of questions that we provide some insight for when someone sends it to us in Tugboat, right? Then after that, by now, most people have had an inspection with an adjuster, or at least a few conversations, and have some indication of what the first steps of their claim are going to be. Like Catherine asked us earlier in the live stream chat here, she was asking about how to get her extended replacement cost limits. By now, those are the types of questions that we're helping people with. Hey, here's a way to follow up with the adjuster and get some clarification and ask the right types of questions to try and get that coverage opened up for you if it is relevant, right? So much of a claim is just communication. It is emailing, phone calling, sometimes text messages with an adjuster, with several adjusters, with their supervisors, whoever it might be. And it is that communication and how you're doing it and how informed it is and how professional it is, how backed up by professional reports and specialist reports it might be, that helps you be successful in a claim. And so one of the things that we often talk about is how important it is for a property owner to actively advocate for themselves in a claim if they want to ensure that they're receiving everything that they're owed. I don't think that all adjusters are not good at their job. I don't think that I think the vast majority of them are good people and trying to help homeowners. I think that most have really good intentions. And in spite of all of that, I don't think that from all of my experience and everything that I've seen in helping thousands of people use Tugboat and helping hundreds, if not thousands of people as a public adjuster, and as writing thousands and thousands of claims as an independent adjuster for insurance companies, I can very confidently say that if you are not advocating for yourself in a claim, you are leaving something on the table, most likely, almost certainly. And you can hire someone to do that for you, like a public adjuster, and that's fine. And that's the right option sometimes. And a lot of people ask about that. And we think, yeah, that's a good option. You should talk to a public adjuster and see where this can go. But someone should be advocating for you when it comes to your claim. I'm going to pull Aaron in here because he is, as head of operations for us, really well plugged into what the support is looking like for people these days. Aaron, do you have anything to add here?
Mostly just about kind of the difference between like what makes like the support that people are getting with Tugboat just work really well. You mentioned a lot of like the nuance of like, even when you were just talking about debris removal, like what is best for your specific situation can be really hard to figure out. And there's a lot of really general information out there because that's all that it can be. Any information that's out publicly has to be general. Like it can't be tailored to your situation. And because not everybody, you have to not only justify what you need done and what the money that you need from your policy to help restore you. You have to justify that to your insurance company and communicate that to your insurance company. You also have to work within the limits of the coverage that you have and the damage that you've experienced and the options that are available to your specific situation. And being like, it's incredible how strategic a claim can end up being.
Yep.
To make it work for you, because there's so many opportunities to get left with a bill that's outside of the coverage that you have available. And just like with medical, right? You hear all the time about medical bills being, coded wrong, and then someone gets stuck with a bill and then you're fighting that. It's very similar within property insurance where things have to be presented, documented, and accounted for the right way. But then also it's like you had mentioned when you're talking about, can we maybe take advantage of some of that debris removal coverage if we can get that done under the limit, or can we categorize some things as debris removal? Am I coming up against a limit in this area, and we can find a way to get it done during this scope of work instead? And there's just lots of little things there. And then when you're mentioning that speed's not always the best choice, when we're talking about like the quickest option isn't necessarily the best option when you're talking between the FEMA and the private debris removal. It depends on how much additional living expenses you have. It might actually might be the best option because you're going to run out of your limit. And so all of those little nuances are the reason that like I'm just so proud of what we built and so happy to be able to help people in the way that we are, because it's tailored and it's specific and it's help that they like would not be getting if they were just listening to the information that was out there. And we're able to help people really take control of their claim, and it's not happening to them. They're now moving forward.
Yeah. I mean, when we thought of Tugboat 4 years ago now, we've talked a lot about this in different settings, not here in the office hours at all. There was a big question, even internally with us, like how big of a difference can someone's self-advocacy end up making in a claim if it's a little more informed, right? If it's not just an angry email in all caps to their adjuster, that might be the answer sometimes, or might rarely do the trick for you. But what if someone just has a little more guidance and has a little bit more information when they make a decision like that or do something like that in their claim? And it was literally the first person that we helped in that way, just advocate for themselves and provided them some information and some helpful insights. That what was the difference in their claim? It went from, was it 15 to 30 or 10 to 25? It was an additional
It was a
$15,000.
lot. It was a significant increase on that
Yeah.
first one, and it was
And it felt it, and because there was this inclination, if you talk to anyone in claims advocacy, some might say that, oh, claims are underpaid by 100% all the time or whatever it might be. It doesn't have to be 100% because claims are on average very large. Like the average size claim is $13,000, which is so much money for the average person, right? So if that claim has 10% of a mistake on it, you're like, oh my gosh, that's $1,300 that is missing on this claim. And so it doesn't have to be like there's this astronomical mistake. It is a coat of paint that's missing throughout this estimate or whatever it might be. Or it's this misapplied coverage that was just a mistake that I had to help my adjuster uncover. And so anyways,
well, with these wildfire claims, there's so many opportunities for those little mistakes to add up.
for sure, there's some
And
of
it
the most
just
complex claims
compounds.
there are.
Yeah. It's really, and that's where we see it the most, right? In total losses, in heavy smoke damage,
Yep.
last house standing situations, like things like that. That's where all of those coats of paint really start to compound.
Yeah, no, it's not just coats of paint anymore. And I've been telling people this a lot when it comes to these smoke claims. And again, I just have to keep reiterating, I'm not talking about minimal ash that fell on the outside of your house. I'm talking about houses that you probably couldn't see 10 feet in front of you or 5 feet in front of you if you were there when the fire happened because of how much smoke they were inundated with. Those claims are some of the most complex that a public adjuster can work through, let alone a homeowner. Because what's affected by smoke? Everything is affected by heavy smoke. It doesn't mean that everything needs to get replaced, but it means that almost everything is affected, right? So some things are only cleaned, but some things are cleaned and painted, and some things are replaced, and some things have salvage value, and other ones don't. And can you clean this area? Or the questions honestly feel endless, and those are the ones where no, it's not $1,300 that someone is leaving on the table if they're not advocating for themselves. It's tens of thousands of dollars on average for those ones because the amount of things that are going to be missed are not thought about. Or if you just file the claim and your adjuster wrote his own cleaning estimate and you had your house cleaners clean everything and just paid them with it, the amount of things that aren't going to be cleaned properly, the toxic chemicals and harmful compounds that are going to be present on the materials throughout your home are going to be vast. And another point that I've made to people, because I do think it's always important, and I didn't realize we're almost at the end of time here. It's a good point to end on here. I think it's really important for us to always acknowledge how traumatic these claims are. I think any claim, because it's your home and it's where you live, and their homes are so expensive now and so hard to get, like any claim has some level of, call it trauma to it, or it's just difficult to go through. These wildfire claims, it doesn't matter if you're a total loss or you're one of the few houses left standing, are incredibly traumatic for people to go through. And I feel honestly pretty horrible telling people that you need to be more involved in this claim process when you have so much you're going through already. It's not fun news to deliver to someone, but it is the truth. And you don't get this time back 6 months or a year from now when you're this close to the event, when you have adjusters on site that are able to meet you there, when you remember things more clearly. if it is 6 months from now and you had your house quickly cleaned and you're like, I just wanted to get back into it, and you're realizing 6 months from now that it still smells and you're worried about it and you're getting sick and you don't know why and your kids are coughing, whatever it might be, then I cannot tell you how much more difficult it is going to be to try and get coverage at that point for things that you could have asked for now. So I'll end on this note. As hard as it is, and it is hard, and it is work, and it is not something that you should have to do, you need to be advocating for yourself when it comes to your wildfire claim. You need to be as informed as possible, involved, and asking the right questions, sending the right reports, and communicating in a way that is as effective as possible to make sure that you have what you need to put your home back together in a way that is safe for you and your family. So we'll end on that today. Wednesdays at 3 p.m. We're going to be continuing to do these office hours. I have no plan on stopping them for the foreseeable future. We will be talking about these wildfire claims, bringing insights from the week that we have learned as we have supported people through their specific claims. That's the Eaton fire, the Palisades fire, the Hearst fire, and any other ones, and also the Camarillo wildfires that happened just a month or two before those fires did. So there is a lot that we learn every week as we support people, because things change every week from insurance company to insurance company, with notices from the Department of Insurance and city municipalities. And those insights help you have a more effective claim, and we want to help you have access to them. So thank you, everyone, for joining. Catherine, I think you're the one that sent in the questions at the beginning. Thanks for that. Always helpful to have kind of a springboard for us to talk about different things. Feel free to join us next week if you're watching this later. Please share with people. We want people to have all the information they possibly can to help them succeed in these wildfire claims. So we'll catch you next week, Wednesday at 3 o'clock.